Hello everyone. Before we start, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment with where you're from and what time you're watching. Your support helps us bring you more stories like this. Now, let us begin. Mary Williams was born in Ireland before moving to Liverpool as a child. Her early life was marked by instability and hardship. Orphaned at a young age, she grew up without consistent care or security, struggling to survive in circumstances that offered little support or opportunity. From an early age, hardship became a defining feature of her life. While still a teenager, Mary married a man later described by those who knew him as a drunkard and a brute. The couple settled on Raleigh Street, a working-class area in the district of Bootle. Over the following years, Mary gave birth to 7 children. Their home life was difficult, shaped by poverty, overcrowding, and constant tension. Her husband's violent temper and refusal to provide for the family forced Mary to shoulder nearly all responsibility for raising the children. Raleigh Street itself was a harsh environment. The area was notorious for drunken brawls, domestic disputes, and frequent outbreaks of violence. Conflict was common, and residents were often exposed to public disorder and confrontation. Mary was no stranger to these conditions, and was known to have a fiery temper of her own. In 1872, Mary was sentenced to 7 days in prison after failing to pay a fine related to a public disorder offense. The punishment did little to change her behavior or circumstances. Her life remained defined by poverty, instability, and constant exposure to violence, long before the events that would unfold in April 1874. On Monday, April 20th, 1874, violence erupted once again on Raleigh Street. A brutal street fight broke out involving Mary Williams, 2 sisters, and the husband of one of the women. The precise cause of the altercation was never clearly established. In a neighborhood known for volatile disputes, the confrontation may have stemmed from a long-standing grudge, a drunken argument, or a misunderstanding that escalated rapidly. During the fight, Mary was viciously attacked. Witnesses later described how she was dragged down by her hair and beaten as she lay helpless on the ground. The assault was severe, leaving her physically injured and emotionally shaken. Despite the violence inflicted upon her, Mary managed to break free and escape. The attack did not fade from her mind. Throughout the day, her anger intensified rather than subsiding. Unlike others who might have allowed the incident to pass, Mary's fury simmered, growing into a firm desire for revenge. Later that day, she encountered Nicholas Manning, a resident of Raleigh Street, and the brother of one of the women involved in the earlier fight. By evening, her resolve to retaliate had hardened, setting in motion the events that would follow. Later that evening, Nicholas Manning passed by Mary Williams' home on Raleigh Street. In a sudden act of aggression, Mary grabbed a basin and hurled it toward him. The object struck Manning squarely on the forehead before shattering on the ground. The attack caught him completely off guard. Despite being injured, Manning responded calmly. He insisted that he had not been involved in the earlier street fight, and stated that he had never laid a hand on a woman. After the confrontation, he continued on his way, leaving Mary still consumed by anger. A short time later, Manning passed Mary's house again. This second encounter proved far more serious. Mary pulled a pistol from beneath her apron and called out to him. As he turned toward her, she fired. The bullet struck Manning in the shoulder. The sound of the gunshot sent neighbors rushing out of their homes. They were confronted with a shocking scene. Mary stood on her doorstep holding a pistol, while Nicholas Manning clutched his shoulder, his shirt soaked with blood. Though badly wounded, he remained conscious and able to speak. Neighbors quickly intervened, offering assistance and sending for medical help. Manning was transported to Bootle Hospital for treatment. Police were alerted and soon arrived on Raleigh Street, marking the beginning of an official investigation into the shooting that had unfolded in full view of the community. When police arrived on Raleigh Street, they began questioning witnesses and speaking directly with Mary Williams. Officers were struck by her demeanor. She showed little remorse and appeared unfazed by what had occurred. Mary told police that she would leave a mark on Nicholas Manning that he would carry to his grave. When asked why she had shot him, she replied that she had used powder and ball, and claimed that she would do the same again if given the chance. She further stated that her actions had brought honor to her country. A search of her home revealed several troubling items. Officers discovered a box of caps, a ramrod, a flask of gunpowder, and multiple rounds of ammunition. Most concerning was a fully loaded and capped pistol hidden beneath the fireplace, suggesting readiness for use. Mary was charged with wounding and taken to the police station. There, her account began to change. She first claimed that she had fired the pistol only to frighten Manning. Later, she insisted that it was her husband who had fired the shot after Manning attempted to assault her. She requested that officers speak with her children. Police questioned the children. The eldest said he heard the gunshot but did not know who fired it. The younger children stated they had seen nothing. Mary's husband claimed he was in the backyard at the time. Nicholas Manning, interviewed in hospital, identified Mary Williams as the shooter. His condition worsened, and on May 3, 1874, he died from blood poisoning caused by the gunshot wound. The trial of Mary Williams took place on August 13, 1874, at St. George's Hall in Liverpool. The imposing courtroom was presided over by Mr. Justice Archell, known for his stern judgments. Mr. Potter appeared for the prosecution, while Mr. Ford represented the defense. Mary Williams appeared frail and weak, and she was permitted to remain seated during proceedings. The prosecution outlined the events leading to Nicholas Manning's death, emphasizing that Manning had no direct involvement in the earlier street dispute. Mr. Potter argued there had been no provocation to justify the shooting, and stated that the use of a dangerous weapon demonstrated intent to harm. Under the law, he argued, the resulting death constituted murder regardless of intent. The defense countered that the shooting was reckless rather than premeditated. Mr. Ford maintained that Mary did not intend to kill Manning and that the shot was fired without calculated purpose. Witnesses were called, including Thomas Morgan, a laborer who lived on Raleigh Street. He testified that he saw Mary standing in her doorway, shouting accusations at Manning. Morgan described the basin being thrown and hearing the gunshot, though he could not confirm who threw the object. Other witnesses described hearing the shot and rushing outside. The judge instructed the jury that they could return a verdict of manslaughter if they believed Mary intended only to intimidate. If they believed she intended to kill, they must find her guilty of murder. The jury returned a guilty verdict. Following the guilty verdict, Mr. Justice Archell delivered a severe condemnation of Mary Williams. He described her as violent and reckless, stating that she had deliberately aimed the weapon without provocation. He sentenced her to death. Public reaction was swift. Efforts to secure clemency began almost immediately. The mayor of Bootle took a personal interest in the case and supported petitions calling for her sentence to be commuted. One petition, signed by 500 people, was sent to the Home Secretary, Richard Assheton Cross. A second petition followed, signed by jurors from the inquest and Nicholas Manning's father. The petitions described Mary's condition at the time of her arrest. Her face was bruised, both eyes blackened, her clothing torn, and her home damaged by broken windows. They portrayed the violence she had endured earlier that day. The petitions also depicted Manning as a man who had terrorized the neighborhood for years, frequently instigating fights. Supporters emphasized Mary's role as a mother of 7 children struggling to survive. They described her efforts to earn money by buying milk in bulk and selling it around the docks. Visitors to the prison included her sister, aunt, and eldest son. Throughout, Mary maintained her innocence, insisting her husband was responsible. Her husband's sudden disappearance fueled speculation. Despite public debate and appeals, the Home Secretary reviewed the case and upheld the sentence, denying mercy. With Mary Williams imprisoned and her husband missing, the fate of her children quickly became uncertain. Deprived of both parents and their home on Raleigh Street, the children were left without support or protection. Responsibility for their care fell to the parish. Most of the children were sent to the Walton Workhouse, an institution designed to house those unable to support themselves. Only the eldest child avoided this fate, taken in by a relative willing to provide shelter. For the remaining children, the workhouse became their new reality, marking a sudden and harsh separation from family life. The youngest child faced particular hardship. The infant had remained with Mary during her time in prison, a rare allowance under the circumstances. Eventually, authorities deemed it inappropriate for the child to remain there. The baby was removed and also sent to the workhouse, severing the final physical bond between mother and child. The collapse of the family was complete. The children's lives were reshaped by institutional care, charity, and uncertainty. Their future prospects were unknown, entirely dependent on the parish system. Mary's imprisonment and impending execution extended consequences far beyond the courtroom. The death of Nicholas Manning and the punishment imposed on Mary Williams permanently altered the lives of 7 children, leaving them scattered, dependent, and without parental care. Further investigation into Mary Williams' past revealed a life shaped by hardship from an early age. She lost her mother young, and at 12 years old her father deserted the family to marry another woman. Left without support, Mary endured abandonment and instability throughout her childhood. Her marriage offered little relief. Her husband was reportedly abusive and neglectful, frequently absent and unwilling to provide. Mary was left to support her children alone, enduring poverty and constant struggle. These experiences formed the backdrop to her adult life. After her conviction, new details emerged that raised questions about the case. Reports suggested that Nicholas Manning may have provoked Mary in the moments leading up to the shooting. This information had not been presented during the trial. Its absence prompted speculation about whether critical evidence had been overlooked or withheld. Public perception began to shift. What had initially appeared to be a clear case of murder grew more complex. Some began to question whether Mary's actions were driven by accumulated trauma and desperation, rather than deliberate intent to kill. Her history of abuse, violence, and hardship became central to this reassessment. These emerging doubts did not alter the legal outcome, but they deepened the controversy surrounding the case. The narrative evolved from one of cold-blooded violence to one marked by unanswered questions, highlighting the difficulty of separating intent from circumstance in a life defined by adversity. After reviewing the case, Home Secretary Richard Assheton Cross concluded that there was no justification for mercy. Mary Williams' death sentence would stand. On August 31st, she was taken to the gallows at Kirkdale Prison in Liverpool. Witnesses reported that she maintained her innocence until the end. In her final moments, she shook hands with a female prison matron and said farewell. She recited prayers as preparations were completed. When the time came, the trapdoor was released, and Mary Williams was hanged. Her execution carried historical significance. She became the first woman executed within prison walls in Liverpool, following reforms that ended public executions. What had once been a public spectacle was now conducted behind closed doors, marking a shift in the administration of capital punishment. Mary Williams' story remains tragic and complex. Her life was shaped by poverty, abandonment, violence, and struggle. Whether she intended to kill Nicholas Manning or acted in a moment of uncontrolled anger remains open to interpretation. What is certain is that her case reflects the harsh realities faced by working-class women in Victorian England. Her execution closed a legal chapter, but the moral and social questions surrounding her actions continue to resonate.